Will you meet some new characters here on The Cooler? Is this the semester our director Grace will finally get her baseball segment? And is the myth true that Diva Dan is even scarier on Thursday nights? Stay tuned to find out on the first Water Cooler episode of 2022. Good evening and welcome to the Water Cooler. I'm Paige Arredondo, back on the desk with Reagan Griffin Jr. and a new face here, Nicole Sheeran.
What up, what up?
If you're a loyal fan, you know there's no better way to ring in a new season than with Water Cooler Talk. Roll the bump. How are you guys feeling? Nicole, your big debut.
I'm excited, happy to be here.
I'm happy, man. It's good to be back. It's always good to be back on the Cooler.
Definitely. I missed my Fridays, now Thursdays. A few days ago, the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics came to a close, and if you didn't tune in, you're not alone. In fact, ratings were the worst of any Winter Games to date. Did you guys watch any of the Olympics? If so, what were your reactions?
I actually caught some of the curling on YouTube after the fact, so that's an interesting sport. But, you know, overall, I didn't watch much of it, and I think, like you said, I'm not alone there. A lot of people missed out on the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, I maybe watched 15 minutes of it, and that's because one of my friend's moms had it on the TV. I didn't willingly choose to watch it, so the answer is really no.
Yeah, I didn't watch much either, but what do you guys think, why were the Olympics a bust? Why didn't you guys watch?
I mean, at the end of the day, sports are centered around narratives and personalities, right? And there weren't that many enticing personalities at this Winter Olympics, right? Usually you have a Shaun White. The only girl that I remember is Erin Jackson. She won the 500-meter speed skate, first African-American woman to do so. But outside of that, there weren't really that many enticing stories around the Winter Olympics, at least none that I was privy to. So I think that's why most people didn't catch it.
I also think people like to watch sports that are accessible, they're attainable.
Yeah.
Like, for example, with the Summer Olympics, you have soccer, you have, water polo, you have a bunch of different sports, soccer, tennis, swimming, gymnastics, whatever. A lot of us grew up playing those sports.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Winter Olympics, I mean, have you guys ever gone curling before?
I swear, I was just saying that to somebody the other day. It's like you're either an expert at one of those sports or you've never tried it ever in your life. Like bobsledding, speed skating.
The biathlon, where you're like skiing and then shoot. That is so weird to me.
Skeleton. I don't even want to hate because like these are elite athletes. It's just I have no clue what y'all are doing.
Yeah, there's definitely a learning gap as well as an accessibility issue there. Although there were only a couple newsworthy stories from the games, 15-year-old Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva captured headlines across the world. The results from her sample collection in December came back positive for a banned substance. After a brief suspension, the IOC decided to let her compete in the finals, and this stirred up a huge controversy. U.S. sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson took her frustrations to Twitter, calling out Olympic and anti-doping officials for their decision. Her tweet read, "Can we get a solid answer on the difference of her situation and mine? My mother died and I can't run and was also favored to place top 3. The only difference I see is I'm a black young lady." How do you guys feel about this statement? Is it really fair to compare the two cases?
From what I understood and what I read is that the difference was the timing of when the Russian girl was tested and then basically when the test came up. But honestly, I'm not privy to all of that stuff, so I don't really understand it. So on a blanket surface level, I could definitely understand what Sha'Carri was frustrated with that outcome because it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem fair at all.
No, I completely agree. I agree, too, that it definitely was the timing issue with the testing. That in itself is a whole different story. But I think there's a lot of issues. One, she's 15, and at the time I think she was 22 or 21 or something, so that's a whole other argument. But honestly, knowingly doping or not, I think you have rules and you stick to the rules, and regardless of if you've already competed and then you find out it was positive. I think you got to stick to the rules because it's not fair to all the other athletes who are clean throughout the entire competition. Like, you have to stick to what you preach, if that makes sense.
Not to mention you have a PED versus non-PED issue here at hand as well. So
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot of moving pieces there.
No, definitely. And I think the age thing is a big issue. I mean, she's not legally an adult. She's not legally able to make so many decisions. I mean, at least the way we consider it in the U.S. And so I think, obviously, that's the bigger issue here is the power dynamics. I mean, we saw what happened with the gymnastics Olympic team and the doctor. So I think there's just a lot of things that come into play there. But drama is permeating the sports world, not just on the ice or the track, but also on the field. The start of spring training has been delayed, and Major League Baseball remains in a lockout. The lockout was imposed by the owners just after midnight Eastern Time on December 2nd, when the previous collective bargaining agreement expired. But what are the players and owners fighting over? Long story short, players' salaries have not grown as rapidly as revenues in the sport over the last 2 decades, and the players are demanding change. Last week, the Major League Baseball Players Association released a statement that read, "MLB announced today that it must postpone the start of spring training games." This is false. Nothing requires the league to delay the start of spring training, much like nothing required the league's decision to implement the lockout in the first place. Despite these decisions by the league, players remain committed to the negotiating process. Yesterday, an MLB spokesperson said that if a new CBA is not signed by the end of the month, 2022 regular season games will be canceled, player pay will not be recouped, and games will not be rescheduled. Essentially, the league and the owners are really just trying to bully the players into giving up. I mean, how hard is it to listen and come to an agreement? Our analyst, Alex Blau, has returned to the desk. But what do you guys think about this whole debacle?
I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know a single thing really about baseball, but I do know a little bit something about like labor rights, right? And at the end of the day, you know, this country and really the world has a long-standing tradition of people who are in possession of resources attempting to withhold and consolidate those resources as much as possible away from laborers, and that's essentially what you're seeing here, another replay of that. So I definitely stand with the players, and I hope that some sort of litigation is able to be recouped on their end because it's not fair. It's not fair at all.
Yeah, I mean, these are definitely the toughest negotiations we've seen since 1995 when, you know, the regular season was postponed and there weren't those games in the beginning. You know, the crazy number I saw was that in 2019, pre-COVID, the MLB had seen 17 consecutive years of just this exponential growth, not just with baseball, but naturally financially. Yet, since 2017, the average salary of a player had gone down roughly 8%. So we're seeing, you know, the game is growing. Players aren't getting that input. They finally do, and in these negotiations, you know, owners are willing to give maybe $10,000 more. But players, from what I see, are looking more for about $200,000 more for the minimum salary for players. So I think, you know, maybe we'll get games on time. I'm not really expecting it. I think it's going to cost teams about $8 million per owner to actually get this whole thing settled.
I'll tell you what, like, this is why I love sports as a microcosm of our larger society, because what's the trend that we've seen in the world, particularly America as of late? An increase in our economic viability, and yet that doesn't match the increase in things like our minimum wage. So it's messed up. It's messed up.
Yeah, I think the last negotiations were even older than that, like 1994. So it's definitely interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if they budge at all and if they're really open to negotiation. But while baseball has been put on pause, the rest of the sports world has not stopped. If you missed anything over the past couple months, don't you worry. Our executive producer, Daniel Halpern, has got you covered with the wrap-up. Check it out.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel Halpern, and while we missed a lot over the last 3 months while we were out of studio, I'm going to do my best to catch us up on everything we missed in the sporting world in 60 seconds. Let's give it a shot.
Let's start with the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and the F1 season finale that ended in dramatic fashion with Lewis Hamilton getting robbed in the final lap of the season by Max Verstappen. Shout out to the Georgia Bulldogs on winning their first natty since 1980, and more importantly, shout out to our former host Trevor Denton, dreams really do come true. Tom Brady finally retired and capped off the greatest career in NFL history with a basic Instagram post. Talk about worst retirement ever. Caleb Williams transferred from Oklahoma and followed his head coach Lincoln Riley to SC, ushering in a new era of Trojan football. The NFL season concluded with Aaron Rodgers claiming his 4th MVP and the Rams beating the Bengals 23-20 in Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. The Ben Simmons drama finally came to a close at the trade deadline as Philly shipped him and a package of assets to the Nets for James Harden in one of the biggest in-season trades in recent memory. USC beat UCLA without star Isaiah Mobley in a sold-out Galen Center, and the Trojans are now 23-4. And to cap it all off, the Lakers suck again. That's what you get for trading for a Bruin instead of signing a Trojan.
Well, that was a lot to go over in just 60 seconds, but don't worry because Nicole Sheeran and Carlo Jimenez have a lot more of USC athletes killing it in the pros over on Trojan Check.
Welcome to Trojan Check. I'm Nicole Sheeran.
And I'm Carlo Jimenez, and we're checking in on our favorite pro Trojans.
So to start off, I thought I would take a turn a little bit to the women's side of things. As you all know, the Winter Olympics just ended, if you watch them. And I thought, you know what, let's pick a USC athlete in the Olympics. Well, there actually aren't any in the Winter Olympics, but I thought this was the perfect time to talk about a star Olympian who went to USC. Anna Cockrell. She's a baller, a killer. She competed in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. She didn't medal, was a finalist in the 400 meter. She didn't medal. She had some issues. She struggled with depression. She almost decided to quit her sport at one point. But during her time at USC, she had 3 individual titles, 2 national championships with the team. She's an athlete that is going to be a star if she competes in the 2024 Olympics. She's definitely a lookout track star, that's for sure.
That's a good one, Nicole. I'm going to go with the hardwood, and we'll go with the youngest pro Trojan maybe out there, and maybe the best at his age. Evan Mobley right now. What did he do over the weekend, an All-Star weekend? Well, the Cavs won the skills competition. His team won the Rising Stars competition, and he's leading the NBA in all-rookie voting right now. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Evan Mobley's the front runner to win Rookie of the Year, and I think it's going to turn out that way. Look, Evan has not taken any L's so far in his young NBA career, and the stat that is really the most surprising is he's got a 140 plus minus. 3 other rookies have higher than 60 plus minus. Evan Mobley is playing out of this world. The really only knock against him is maybe he could shoot the free throw a little bit better. But besides that, man, he's looking like a unicorn ready to take on the NBA.
Yeah, not to mention he has a brother, Isaiah Mobley, who's absolutely killing it at USC. So that family they're studs. That's all I have to say.
Eric does a good job.
I know. But you know what? That's going to be it for Trojan Check today. But tune in for more Water Cooler after the break.
You love Uber Eats, the #1 app for getting your favorite local and chain foods delivered right to your door. Uber Eats is proud to present Uber Feeds. We want to go all the way for our customers, which is why we will have Uber Feeds delivery drivers literally feed your meal to you. Safety is our #1 priority, which is why every driver is vaccinated. Better yet, download now and get a delivery and feeding absolutely free. Uber Feeds, stuffed in more ways than one. You love Uber Eats, the #1 app for getting your favorite local and chain foods delivered right to your door. Uber Eats is proud to present Uber Feeds. We want to go all the way for our customers, which is why we will have Uber Feeds delivery drivers literally feed your meal to you. Safety is our #1 priority, which is why every driver is vaccinated. Better yet, download now and get a delivery and feeding absolutely free. Uber Feeds, stuffed in more ways than one.
Welcome back to the Water Cooler. Skylar Truppel has joined me and Reagan here on the desk. How are you feeling, Skylar?
Great. I'm excited to be back. We're going to get to talk some hoops. You know Reagan and I love talking hoops as well,
sir.
So it's awesome. It's been really good.
I'm ready to get into it.
Let's do it. When Skylar's on the desk, you know we're talking hoops, so let's get right into it. USC Basketball is ranked number 16 in the AP Top 25 poll. The Trojans are in the mix for a number 2 seed in the Pac-12 tournament, which tips off in less than 2 weeks. In order to secure this spot and keep up the momentum, which player do you guys think needs to step up for USC?
I'll let you have the honors, Skylar.
Sure, I'll start off first. Overall, I got to say Drew Peterson, just because I heard so much hate for Drew Peterson for so long, and to see him actually get the footwork in, I think he's the real X factor on this team. I say that because you've got Isaiah Mobley, you've got Boogie Ellis. I'd love to say Boogie Ellis is underrated because I like him so much, but I think he's appropriate. We know he's good.
Yeah.
Whereas Drew Peterson still gets the hate. He's got the footwork, he's got the moves, and when those two aren't on in the playoffs, we're going to need Drew Peterson to be the guy who really steps up and provides that scoring punch.
Got you. I'm going to go to the bench. I'm going to go with Reese Dixon-Waters, the freshman. Now, I'm going to take my glasses off for this because I got to explain it. You have to notice the signs, and the signs are there when it comes to Reese Dixon-Waters, y'all. I noticed it. First of all, they brought him up when he was still coming out of high school. He graduated early. He got some run in with the practice. He got a little bit of game time in. He didn't get fully academically eligible, but he played a little bit last year. But this is technically his freshman year. You have to notice the signs. I saw him play in the Drew League. I saw him play against pros, and the dude is a flat-out baller. He has the poise, he has the control, he has the patience of somebody 5 years his senior. He can play. Now, I'm not saying it's his time to be the star yet, because you noticed, you said Boogie, you got Isaiah, you got Drew, but he's going to come in and give you 15, 20 great bench minutes at the guard position? Of course he is. Reese Dixon-Waters is a player. Watch him for this year in spots, and watch him for years to come as the USC star.
And he did look really nice on the court when I saw him play in person. I do think that Reese Dixon-Waters is the kind of guy who's going to have that impact that goes way beyond the stat sheet.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
All right, guys. Well, you heard it here first. USC defeated Washington State on a Boogie Ellis buzzer beater, and we beat the other LA school by just 3 points. So my question for you guys here, should we be alarmed by the close games?
No, not at all. I think the fact that you can win close games is something that bodes well for this team as they enter the tournament, because Lord knows all of those are going to be close games. So, is this a team that kind of plays to their competition to an extent? Sure, but they're going to play up when it's time when it matters. So I think that's the important thing.
Exactly. They're one of those. That's what championship teams are able to do. They are and really good teams. They are able to close in those big games. The Golden State Warriors, even in their 73-9 season, they had a bunch of close games all regular season, but they were able to close every single one. And I think that's what we see out of USC. So I think it's actually a good thing for them that they're able to close out these close games.
No doubt.
While Trojan fans are considering the home stretch of the season, LeBron James is busy thinking about the home stretch of his career. The Lakers superstar pretty much issued a come-get-me plea for every single team in the NBA after announcing that he would join any side that decides to draft his son, Bronny James. Bronny, who is currently a junior in high school, won't be eligible until the 2024 NBA draft. What are your guys' thoughts?
Okay, I cannot wrap my mind around anyone who dislikes this from LeBron James. When we think about LeBron, can we think of an athlete or anybody in the sports world who's had a more compelling career arc than LeBron James? From coming from Akron, the kid from Akron.
Maybe, but I want to give him his flowers.
You got to give him his flowers. I'm not sure there's a more compelling one, because every milestone that we imposed on him at age 15, every mark that we said he was great enough to hit, he surpassed it. And he wants to culminate his career by playing with his son. I think that ties the perfect bow on what's been an incredible career from LeBron James. And I would love to see it happen wherever it happens. If that's in Memphis, please God, or Utah, or wherever else, LA, I don't care. I want to see him get that opportunity, because this is somebody who didn't have their father growing up. I bet it means the world to him to be able to take the court with his son. I want to see it.
Exactly, man. I think it really is one of the best storylines. I mean, can you imagine? We saw Tom Brady play 22 years. Can you imagine if we saw him throw a pass to his son? That's what this is like, man. It's crazy. I've watched LeBron James. He was drafted 2003. I was 10 years old. So I've watched this guy my entire life grow up in the league, have Bronny, have a second kid during that first finals run. And the coolest thing about LeBron, I think, is that, like lots of his friends were literally dead by the time he was 15. Not lots, but a few of them that grew up in that area. And so for him to have his son nearly the same age and be taking him to the NBA and to play on the same court, I think it's great. I also think it's a good move. I like that he's getting Bronny a little bit of that glow up in the draft stock.
100%.
That's a great, you know how much
and
he
good
loves
on
his
him
kids.
to do so, because he's his dad. That's what you want to do.
Exactly.
Not to mention the fact, it's not like Bronny's a scrub. We're talking about a
No.
4-star who plays at Sierra Canyon. He
Yeah.
can play. He had a legitimate shot at making the NBA with or without LeBron there. Does having LeBron as his dad help? Sure. But let's not act like Bronny James can't play basketball. He can hoop. He can hoop.
And he is good. And like definitely right now, I will say, he's not close to being the best player on his team.
no.
As far as Amari Bailey, he has 30 points a game on that squad. Bronny's got 9. But like you said, 4-star recruit. I really want to see him amp that up next year. I think that could be nice. But I think it's probably going to be one of the best storylines, not just in NBA history, but in sports history.
I'm with you
Absolutely.
100%. 100%.
So I have a follow-up. Put on your magic goggles and look into the
I
future.
already got mine on.
In a couple years, who is going to snatch them?
I think that they're going to go higher than you expect. There's so many facets. Because there's how is Bronny playing, and then there's how is LeBron playing.
Yeah.
Because they're now a package deal.
Yeah.
So you're banking on the fact, I mean, we've never seen someone stay quite as consistent as LeBron. You know, he did do load management. He did take vacations in the season for health. It was a different approach, but it's why he's still playing at the level he's playing right now. Assuming he can be just good in 2 years, I think that literally raises Bronny's draft stock from like late first round to potential like mid first round or even higher. So you got to think about who the bad teams are. Then LeBron said he'd never play for the Orlando Magic because of the Disney bubble. So there's elimination. Sorry, Alex. But you know, it's tough to tell right now. I mean, you're predicting who's going to be like the 10th place team. Maybe OKC because they have so many picks.
I'll say this.
Maybe OKC.
And like LeBron's already had a ridiculously rare story. So why not go to Cleveland? What could you possibly have anything better than that than go to Cleveland with your son, wrap it up?
That might be the way.
Circle moment.
I think I need to see it in Cleveland.
Yeah,
no lie.
make it a full circle moment. LeBron made this big announcement at the All-Star Game over the weekend. So speaking of the All-Star Game, as a multi-sport fan, one thing that stands out year after year is how the product is just so consistently better than the NFL Pro Bowl. I tuned into the Pro Bowl because it was in my hometown, but it was a snooze fest as always. I think the main difference is that the NBA has really grasped the value of spectacle and performance over like legit competition. But what do you guys think?
I'll ask you first.
Sure, yeah. For me, so look, I love football. I love all sports. I really feel like I could talk about any of them. But the thing for me and why I've always loved basketball the most, I think one of the biggest parts is no helmets and how close up we are. And the access you have to, look at that picture right there. You're seeing Steph Curry with the mouth guard. You're seeing the emotion of LeBron James. Football in the Pro Bowl, you got the helmets on. You can't see it as much. It's not as interactive. I also think it's just a much higher paced game. And then you got players playing both sides of the ball instead of your favorite player plays only half the game. Overall, I think it's just the most exciting sport created, and I think that really plays into the All-Star weekend.
Well, that certainly would be a factor. I'll say this. I think it's for the same reason that you can go to 24-hour fitness and watch a bunch of 40-year-olds going up and down the court. Basketball is not a game that has to be played at a high level for it to be entertaining, right? You can play basketball at 80, 70, 60%, and it can still be fun to watch because you have a dude like Stephen Curry who'll pull up from half court. It doesn't matter where he's going, 50% or 100%. That's entertaining. You can have a dude like LeBron going 60%. He can still windmill dunk. You know what I'm saying? You cannot play a game like football if you're not A, playing at 100%, and B, locked into this zone that I can tell you from personal experience, you have to be there to play in a football game. You have to be willing to put your body through some really excruciating things, risk a lot, and dudes aren't trying to do that at the Pro Bowl. It's just not fit for that sort of style of play. Honestly, the Pro Bowl would be more fun if it was a flag football game because people would actually go a little bit harder.
No, I totally agree. I love how All-Star Weekend proves how sports have the power to unite, but we all know sports also have the power to divide. So put on your gloves, boys. It's time for my favorite segment here on the show, The Great Debate. Zion Williamson has not featured yet in the Pelicans jersey this season. His injuries and general mystery surrounding his overall situation are pretty major worrying signs. So what do you guys think? Is it time for the Pelicans to move on from him?
I want to hear from you first, Scarlett. I'm not gonna lie. I want to put you on the spot, man.
All right, honestly, I'll go for it because I know that I am on the side right now that no one's taking. It's so easy to harp on Zion Williamson right now. Look, though, I think, honestly, the Pelicans can't move on, at least this year, from him because he is too enigmatic of a player to just move on from when you have a unicorn, when you have someone who could be, I mean, this guy has redefined the unicorn. He's like Giannis and LeBron combined like with Shaq, with his finishing ability, and it's unbelievable. Let's not forget to what Zion Williamson did, not just in college where he was a superstar and dunking and one of the best college players we've ever seen, but on an NBA court. He had the longest streak since the three-point line was invented in 1980 of 20-point games with 60% shooting. And I want to point out just before I let you respond, a couple of
you got it, man. Go
a
for
couple
it.
good games here, particularly one where he scored 37 points, 15 rebounds, and 8 assists on 15. That one was 15 for 28 shooting, which is still close to 60%. And it's just that you had so many games in that stretch. And in that game in particular, though, he was hitting the jump shots that people are saying that he couldn't hit in college. He was gracefully gliding through the air, putting layups in the hoop, looking like even a different dude than the one we saw in college. Even better. And 8 assists, he could pass the ball too and run the floor. And 4th youngest All-Star starter in NBA history with Magic, LeBron, and Kobe. Those are some good names. Now, I know you're going to get
Reagan,
into
I
it.
know you want to jump in.
I'm like,
You're letting him steal the show.
Finish. But no, I mean, I hear you. And you pointed out a lot of good reasons why the league should not give up on Zion Williamson as a basketball player. And I agree with all of them. I don't think that anybody at this point in time, regardless of the injury, should be looking at Zion Williamson as anything other than everything he was cracked up to be coming out of college, because as long as he's able to stay healthy, and I'm not going to be the one to sit up here and tell you he's injury prone because there's no real confirmation of that yet, is when he gets back on the court, he's going to be a baller. But the question at hand here isn't does the NBA need to give up on Zion Williamson, but do the New Orleans Pelicans need to move on from Zion Williamson? My answer to that is if he doesn't want to be there, then you have no real choice other than to move on. There's been no situation from James Harden to Anthony Davis to Ben Simmons. If guys want out of your program, if guys want out of your franchise, it's really beyond your control at that point. And I don't want to speculate on where his mindset at. Honestly, you have to have a sit-down conversation with him if you're David Griffin. But there's a lot of smoke there. And I have to believe that there's a bit of fire when you have rumors about him not wanting to be there, rumors about him not being happy with the Pelicans. Things like the CJ thing, I think that got blown out of proportion. But when you have JJ Redick talking about him being a detached teammate, all of these things individually, I probably wouldn't put too much credence to. But all of them together, it looks a little bad, and it looks a little damning for the Pelicans. So I'm with you. You probably don't do it this year, but at some point you got to sit down and you got to ask the guy, do you want to be here? Because if not, we'll figure out something else for you, and we'll try to recuperate as much as we can for what stock you bring us. But, like, if he doesn't want to be there, I'm sorry to say, you don't have another choice, and it's probably not fair.
They're not going to get his best product, so there's no point, right?
There's no point.
All right, guys, as much as I hate to break up this debate, as always, I know Skylar's bummed. We're coming up on the end of the show, and you know what that means. It's time for final memos. So, did you guys know that there was a full moon on Friday?
I did not.
No, I didn't hear.
Fun fact. It just wasn't in the sky. Orlando Magic's Cole Anthony was the butt of jokes all weekend after he mooned Desmond Bane at the free throw line during the Rising Stars Challenge. Unfortunately, his tactic didn't work because Bane made the free throw and won the game for his team. But, you know, guys, this right here is real dedication.
Unacceptable. That right there, that's my boy, Desmond Bane, 901. I got your back, bro. I can't let that fly at all. Cole Anthony,
No. I'm not even letting this go any further. First off, if Cole Anthony wanted to play the entire game with his shorts around his ankles, he'd probably drop 30. If the Orlando Magic wanted to play the entire game with their shorts around their ankles, they'd probably win a game. You know, he is good. As soon as he becomes...
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's show. Leave it to Alex to butt in. As always, thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see you right back here next week.
I know.